It dawned on me the other day that I've been doing this job for 10 years, and only in the last 6 months have I gotten to drive Ferrari test cars. Those cars, the FF and the California T, were superb drives and a great introduction to what Ferrari is about. But as good as they are, I am rather looking forward to the next one. And that's simply because the next one is the current poster child for the brand, and closer to what the company is about than any of their cars I've driven. This is the 488 Spider, a drop-top version of a car that, despite not being the most powerful Ferrari or the most expensive, is arguably the most desirable. It takes everything that is spectacular about the 488 and adds a convertible roof. There is a lot of design and engineering and nerdy aerodynamics that have gone into the creation of that roof and into the car as a whole. But rather than ending up looking like a science project, it looks like something you want to go to bed with. It is a beautiful car. Even with all its aggression and performance intent, it's still sculptural and slippery and sexy. It obviously gets a lot of attention, but I reckon that even if they were as cheap as a Datsun and you saw one on every corner, it would still get that attention because it is so pretty. But it certainly isn't as cheap as a Datsun. In fact, at 5.5 million rand, it's understandable that you might want more than just good looks from your exotic sports car, like a top-notch interior. Well, that's not exactly what you get in here. It may be a boring consideration when you think about this car's performance potential, but the fact is that when it comes to ergonomics and user-friendliness, this car's competition has it properly beaten. And then there is that one inescapable thing about convertibles. And now you might be thinking, well, it can't be as pure as the coupe because of things you might have heard us say on RPM previously about convertibles. No fixed roof, chassis isn't as rigid, it can't be that good. And that's not just an opinion, it's science. But Ferrari has some science of their own, and they claim that, despite it packing a folding metal roof, the 488 Spider's torsional rigidity is the same as the coupe's, so there's no compromise because of its ability to let the sunshine in. And that's exactly what we did. Top down, we took a test drive on one of South Africa's most demanding mountain passes just outside of Franschhoek. This route is basically a collection of corners one after the other, some tight, some open, some connected in beautiful sweeps that just give you a really good feeling for what this car can do. There aren't too many straight bits, which means you get less of a feel for what the V8 motor is capable of, but with steering this good and a chassis this capable, the power is almost secondary. There is a fair amount of traction control technology to help keep you from falling off the edge, all wrapped up in a system called SSC2. And because it's a later version than the one in the 488 Coupe, the Spider is actually measurably quicker out of a corner than the hardtop. The steering is a particular highlight, with instant responses and supreme accuracy. It teams up with a front-end grip to deliver brilliant involvement and the kind of confidence that has you pressing harder with each corner. Only to find that the car soaks it all up and asks for more. And the standard carbon ceramic brakes not only deliver phenomenal stopping power, but their own slice of feel and involvement as well. I said the power was almost secondary, but not really, because even with all these corners, you get a very good idea just how potent this motor really is. And you get time to get used to the acceleration, which is a little bit strange. Not strange unpleasant, but strange different, because your brain tells you that 492 kilowatts and 760 newton meters is a lot of power. And yet the acceleration just isn't brutal. It's not underwhelming either. For a car that gets from 0 to 100 in 3 seconds flat, the power delivery is unbelievably smooth. The 3.9 V8 turbo has zero lag, and before you know it, it's built up massive speed, even in short bursts between corners. I would comment on the mid-range power being exceptional, but it seems like no matter what gear you're in, and no matter what speed you're doing, there is always more power available. I've said before that I don't really understand the concept of a convertible supercar because, well, open-top cruising requires low speed and high-end performance requires a chassis as stiff as you can make it, and the two don't always sit well together. But right now, in this place, in this car, I get it. Running up to the red line while flicking your way through the instantaneous 7-speed dual-clutch gearbox delivers a brilliant V8 noise, which sounds even better bouncing off the cliff faces and back into the cabin. The front choke pass is an especially nice place to experience a car that delivers this kind of drive. There's no doubt the Ferrari 488 Spider is a phenomenal performer, but not just because of the obvious stuff like the power and the speed, but because of the amazing responses from the chassis and the steering and the brakes. The whole thing is just so precise. In fact, maybe a little bit too precise. I don't mind admitting that there was once or twice on that drive where I felt a bit like a teenager on a first date fumbling around hoping for the right response. But despite that precision and the power, it's never overwhelming. And that's because it always makes you a part of the experience. And that means if you have the skill or not to get the best out of it, it is one of the most rewarding cars you will ever drive. V8 turbo power, a warehouse full of F1 technology, and one of the world's great roads combine to provide an unforgettable drive. The 488 Spider is a supreme performer, delivering speed, grip, and involvement in equal measure. It doesn't have the most ergonomically perfect interior, but its pure talent outweighs any shortcomings and justifies its price tag.